that the man was beaten. Coming up, you're going to be seeing highlights of the Marvis Frazier Steve Zouski fight. Frazier in just his 4th professional fight. He, of course, the son of Joe Frazier. Sugar Ray Leonard, you and I were talking about this before the fight. It's an unenviable task to come into the ring as the son of a former champion. Not that you've been in that position, but I'm sure you can relate to it very well.
Well, Barry, there's pressure going to the ring anyway, but it's an additional pressure when you have to follow in the footsteps of your father, who is Joe Frazier. I think it's a long road to follow.
Well, it's still coming up.
There's pressure, but I always relate pressure to the fact that if you've got the ability and if you got the will and you want to do it, you love the pressure. It just adds to it. It makes you want to do good. We at HBO did a Marvis Frazier fight when he was an amateur. Stunning knockout. He was considered an exceptional prospect as an amateur. Let's go to Ken Norton's dressing room right now and see what's doing inside there before we go to the Marvis Frazier preliminary fight.
Ray, let me put you in a position I put you in before. What's going through a fighter like Ken Norton's mind at a time like this, just moments before you have to come into the ring and face a guy who you know you're an underdog to, who just about everybody in the house is thinking is going to beat you?
Well, Barry, it's tough. It's pressure. You think about it because the expectations, especially if you is not the favorite. You wonder what is going through people's mind, but you want to prove to the people that they are totally wrong.
Norton, of course, in the minds of most observers here, is the considered underdog. However, there are some people who we have talked to, one of whom is a guy who is near and dear to you, Ray, and that is Angelo Dundee, who thinks that Kenny Norton is going to win the fight.
Well, Kenny has a chance. I mean, both guys are capable of taking each other out. And it just depends on who lands what punch and what round. I really don't see the fight going beyond 5 rounds.
All right, we'll have an opportunity now to go back to a fight that was held a little bit earlier. It is a fellow by the name of Marvis Frazier, of whom we've spoken, and he's in with a tough customer from Brockton, Massachusetts, who's lost just once, named Steve Zouski. So here we go, round 1. Marvis Frazier on the left of your screen against Steve Zouski. He comes from Brockton, Massachusetts, handled by the same people who handle Marvin Hagler. Frazier wearing pink trunks with a white stripe, Zouski in the red with a white stripe. Zouski could give Frazier all that Marvis wants. Marvis has had just 3 fights. Zouski has had 16, has won 15 of them, 10 of them by knockout. Frazier working on him with the left hand now.
We've already done
Zouski
Clancy.
covers up in Frazier's corner.
You know where Larry Holmes is?
Zouski showing a bit of a punch.
Marvis is a totally different fighter than his father, Joe, because he uses his jab, and he's much more of a boxer than his father.
Does bear a strong facial resemblance to Joe Frazier, though. He's working in Marvis's corner. Marvis undefeated in 3 fights, has 2 knockouts, went the distance for the first time in his last fight on April 10th against somebody named Calvin Langston. Frazier getting the better of the early going here. Zouski with right hand lead, a little bit short.
One thing to watch for in Marvis is the way he delivers his punches. You notice he grunts every time he delivers a punch. It's short, inside, to the body, and back to the head.
He's got a pretty good coach in his father, Joe Frazier.
Can't believe what they did here.
Fairly good right hand by Zouski, lands to the cheek of Marvis Frazier. No damage, though. Good left hand by Frazier sends Zouski back against the ropes.
That could be a very bad habit for any good fighter. The way Marvis drops his left hand after he delivers a punch. And Zouski, with that overhand right, could do some damage.
About 2 minutes into round 1 here. And the left hand scores to the face of Zouski. Good strong left jab by Marvis Frazier.
I can't.
15 seconds remaining here.
I keep pulling back.
Another combination. And the end of round one. So Marvis Frazier rather impressive in his first effort, his first round of his fourth fight, taking control immediately, and Larry Merchant had a chance to talk with Dad, Joe Frazier.
You're here tonight as a trainer of your son. How does it feel for you being in the corner and watching your son fight?
Well, it's no different feeling. It's just the idea that it gives me, let's say, pride and pleasure and privilege and being honored to have a young man that follow my footstep and can do a fine job.
Do you hurt when he gets hit?
No, I got about like 4 or 5 boys in the gym with my sister's sons, my brother's sons, and 2 of my sons. I don't hurt when they get clipped. It's the idea that they know their job. I try to teach the best I know how, to them how to do it. So I really don't get fear, you know, when they get hit.
Thank you very much, Joe.
Pretty good sticking left jab by Marvis Frazier. Frazier looks very composed for a guy who's only had 3 fights.
I would say that, Barry. And Zouski, if you take a good look at Zouski, his body is very deceptive. He really doesn't look like a good puncher, but he's had 15 KOs in his career.
Zouski trying to exert a little pressure on Marvis Frazier, who tries to lean in on him and stay at close range. Zouski looks as though he'd prefer to fight at long range. Another good solid left hand to the side of the head, and another one by Marvis Frazier.
One habit that Marvis definitely has, that his father had, is that grunt every time he lets go a punch.
Zouski hasn't taken a backward step. You must say that about him. And blood now shows from the nose, I believe, of Zouski. Looks like a cut might be on the bridge of the nose. Really hard to tell. Combinations again, scoring almost at will now by Marvis Frazier as they are in Frazier's corner. Zouski with the left jab tries to get off the ropes. And a left hand to the body brings the arms of Zouski down.
And looking at Zouski's waistline, doesn't seem like he did his exercises.
No, it
I
does
think
not
as
look like
Frazier go to the body a little bit, I think he'll see a whole different change.
Frazier does move his punches around pretty good. Throws a lot of different kinds of punches. Goes from the hook to the uppercut. Good solid left jab. There's a right hand by Zouski that scores on the side of the face of Marvis Frazier. And Zouski goes to the body. Frazier comes back with a jab to the head.
I'll tell you, he is fighting like his father, although he's not built like his father. He's short and stocky and very strong. Marvis is trying to stay right on top of the opponent.
And there's a good right hand to the jaw of Zouski. Zouski doubles up. Another good right hand by Frazier. Zouski back into the corner now. Legs wobble just a little bit. 15 seconds to go in round 2, 6-round fight. Marvis Frazier getting all the best of it right now. Blood on the bridge of the nose of Steve Zouski. And we come to the end of round 2. We right now are eavesdropping in the locker room of Ken Norton. Ray, I have to ask you, in your own mind, being in the same position as Ken Norton just before a fight, have you already fought that fight in your mind?
Well, you've already envisioned how it's going to take place, especially the way you want the victory to be. And I'm quite sure Norton has his own particular thought wave going now.
I would expect that this is the most difficult time for any fighter.
Yeah, at the present time, you don't want to be bothered. You just want to get in the ring, get it over with, and throw your hands up.
Get
These early minutes are very important for Ken Norton most observers feel, not just the early minutes in here, of course, but the early minutes of the fight to come, because his whole history has been that he gains confidence as a fight goes in distance. And if he survives those early minutes, gets on through the first and second round, he just might find the old Ken Norton inside the skin of the older Ken Norton.
Right now, let's go to round 3. Steve Zouski and Marvis Frazier. Steve Zouski with his back to you, red trunks, white stripe. Frazier having the best of the first 2 rounds. In fact, the best punch was not the left hand, which has been his most frequent punch, but rather a right uppercut that caught the chin of Steve Zouski about midway through the second round.
You notice that Marvis is moving around a little bit, and this shows versatility in a fighter, which is a necessity, because if one particular strategy doesn't work, then you go to something else that's far more effective.
Blood again shows a little bit from the nose of Steve Zouski. Doesn't seem to be in a place where it would bother him too much. It's on the bridge of the nose. Another good right hand that time by Marvis Frazier. Frazier went the distance for the first time in his 3 fights in his last outing. That a 6-round victory. Fought all 3 of his fights in New York. Trains, of course, in Philadelphia. Frazier in control of the fight now, just seemingly pacing himself. Waits for Zouski to come to him, throws a combination of punches, none of which causes any great damage. Also cut up above the left eye of Steve Zouski, who scores with a combination of Frazier. Frazier now going to the stomach. And again, a left hand to the stomach. Right hand behind the head of Frazier.
Zouski is just as strong inside as Frazier.
Zouski liking to work in close quarters right now. He's trying to stay away from Frazier early in the fight. Frazier now with a series of jabs.
As I was saying earlier, Barrett, Zouski is just as strong inside as Frazier, but inside, Frazier delivers that right uppercut, which does a great deal of damage to him.
That has been the most devastating punches of the fight. 2 or 3 right uppercuts from Marvis Frazier. 20 seconds remaining here in round 3. Again, Frazier pretty much controlling the tempo, although Zouski scoring to some degree here in this round. Frazier again backs Zouski into the ropes now. There's a right uppercut that scores again to the chin of Zouski. And we come to the end of round 3.
There you see the big picture of the darkened garden with those starlit bulbs up in the sky. And there you see Jerry Cooney's locker room. We are not inside Jerry Cooney's locker room because he doesn't want us inside there. And I suppose if everything we've heard about him is true, he'll come rip-roaring right through the door, breaking everything down in his way. And in fact, that's how a lot of people hope that he starts this fight, in order to take advantage of the fact that Ken Norton traditionally has been a sort of timid starter against heavy punchers in particular. There you see one of the co-managers, one of the conservative, cautious co-managers of Jerry Cooney. And obviously they feel that Ken Norton is just another stepping stone towards bigger and bigger things.
Those are a couple of pretty big things standing in front of the locker there. This is round 4, Steve Zouski and Marvin Frazier now. Zouski having been pummeled pretty good by Marvis Frazier, but still doesn't look to have really lost too much of the zip in his punches. There's Zouski on the right, Marvis Frazier on the left. You were mentioning earlier, Ray, that Frazier does have a tendency to sometimes drop one of his arms, and that could give Zouski an opening.
Well, Frazier drops that left hand, and he's vulnerable for an overhand right. Zouski's been throwing that overhand right, but he hasn't got a clean enough shot to do any damage.
He threw that right a couple of times right there, but missed with it a little bit wild. Zouski, not a stylish fighter. Good combination right there by Marvis Frazier. And again, a combination by Frazier. Throwing punches in combination, and that, of course, is the name of the game.
Frazier puts his punches together quite well, but he doesn't have any particular balance. And it takes away the power that is being delivered when he throws his punches.
Zouski and Frazier again in close quarters here. Frazier, like his father, puts his head on your shoulder and bangs away, hopes to wear his man down halfway through round 4.
Zouski, on the other hand, he's a rough, tough fighter inside, and he loves to fight this way. As I see it, he can do just as much damage inside as Frazier can.
Zouski misses with another wild right hand, and a right to the midsection does score on Marvis Frazier. Frazier's had pretty much the best of the fight right from the beginning. Another left to the stomach, then upstairs left to the head. Zouski trying to slip between the guard of Marvis Frazier and doing so with only minimal success. About 45 seconds remaining now in the 4th round. Marvis Frazier in his 4th professional fight scores the right uppercut right there on Steve Zouski. Zouski a little rubbery legged here.
Those uppercuts it's not helping him out any.
Zouski catches a left hand from Frazier on the cheek that time on the way in, misses with a combination of his own, scores with a left hand, misses with a right, and takes a left hand from Frazier. Frazier now backs Zouski into the corner, rather into the ropes. Zouski tries to get him out in the middle of the ring. Right hand does score by Steve Zouski. A combination by Marvis Frazier has Zouski covering up once again. And we come to the end of round 4. Well, we still, of course, await the start of this man, Ken Norton, fighting Jerry Cooney. Norton, of course, is the underdog. Ken Norton was around when the man you're watching, Marvis Frazier's father, Joe, was very much in the professional limelight, and Frazier had some things to say about Ken Norton in a conversation he had earlier tonight with our own Larry Merchant.
Joe, what does Ken Norton have to do to win this fight tonight?
Well, the main thing Ken has to do is go out there and win the fight. I think that Ken should have much more experience than let's say, Cooney. If he don't use it, well, it's really not Jerry's fault.
How can Norton use his experience against Cooney?
Well, he can't use it, let's say, tonight by learning. Like I said earlier, you know, all training and let's say, home training and respect begin at home.
Okay, I'm going to keep going and just start the interview.
Well, we're in round 5 now. Steve Zouski on the right, Marvis Frazier on the left of your screen. Frazier has been in complete control of the fight right from the opening bell. Had Zouski a little rubbery-legged a couple of times in round 4. Zouski with a long combination that scores only marginally. Frazier is kind of circling his man now, staying in close quarters. You can hear him grunt with every punch he throws. Little blood still showing from the side of the nose of Steve Zouski.
Frazier's slowing the pace down a little bit, and he's trying to figure out a way he can get the punches in far more effectively than he was in earlier rounds.
Frazier continues to control the tempo of the fight. Really, the outcome has not been in doubt. Zouski, while tough customer, has really provided little offense. Uppercut does score there, but it's a marshmallow punch as we approach the halfway point of round 5. There's a combination to the stomach by Zouski. Frazier again, every now and then will get those hands separated. Looping right hand the side of the head of Frazier by Steve Zouski from Brockton, Massachusetts. Great boxing town. Marvin Hagler, of course, hails from there. Rocky Marciano is Frazier. Gives Zouski another left hand to the chin.
You know, Barry, I'm quite sure when the fans first took a look at Zouski and the way his body is, I guess they said this is a total mismatch. But as we see it now, Zouski is giving Frazier all he can handle.
He really is. Zouski, of course, more the experienced fighter. Not that he has that many fights. He's had 17 fights. Marvis Frazier just in his 4th professional fight. Really looking much more experienced than just having had 4 fights. Takes a lot of punches on his arms. Just every now and then he has not quite perfected that peekaboo style of defense that we will see later tonight from Ken Norton. Zouski has tried that looping overhand right on several occasions, hasn't really scored with it, but seems to be a pretty effective punch. Another combination to the face of Steve Zouski as Marvis Frazier continues to put the pressure on right above us here. 15 seconds remaining here in round 5. Steve Zouski of Brockton, Marvis Frazier of Philadelphia. Well, we want to remind you on Saturday, June 13th, Marvin Hagler and Vito Antuofermo. That for the World Middleweight Championship. I'll be there along with Larry Merchant. Join us then on June 13th as the World Middleweight Champion, marvelous Marvin Hagler, tries it once again against number 3 ranked Vito Antuofermo, a guy who gave him everything he wanted and more. A draw that Marvin thought he wanted. Marvin is out for blood. A scheduled 15-round bout that's live from Boston Garden right here on HBO, Saturday, June 13th. We are at Madison Square Garden as you get kind of a look up at the dome of the garden here. Square Garden, strange name for a round building, but a lot of history here. Steve Zouski, meanwhile, has got just 1 round to do some business with Marvis Frazier. Frazier has been handling it pretty good, and you look into Marvis's corner here as his handlers, one of whom is his father, Joe Frazier, prepare him for the 6th and final round. That is Zouski on the right, Frazier on the left. Frazier has, as we mentioned time and again, dictated the tempo of the fight. The outcome has not been in any serious doubt at all. He cut him in about the 2nd round, early in the 2nd round, and even though the blood has not bothered Zouski, it has been troublesome enough just to keep his offensive prowess from getting anywhere near or through Marvis Frazier's defense.
Well, a fighter like Zouski, he will really frustrate you and worry you because he's constantly there. You don't have to bother about looking for this guy. This guy will always be there. So that's the reason it's always good to be in shape when you face a guy like a Zouski.
So Frazier continues to force the action. Right hand to the chin of Zouski, scores by Marvis Frazier. But again, he left himself open to a counter punch. Another left hand, good left hook. Left to the stomach, left to the head, right to the head by Frazier as he starts to press Zouski a little bit more here in the final round. I think Frazier at this point knows that Zouski cannot hurt him. Just about halfway through round 6. This is the last round. Marvis Frazier in his 4th professional fight, uppercut and a left hook, and another uppercut to the chin of Zouski, forces him against the ropes. Frazier's on top of him that quick. A left and a right score. Zouski now is a little bit wobbly leg. They're in the center of the ring.
Well, at this point now, both fighters is a little tired, but as we see, Frazier has more snap left in his punches than Zouski.
Zouski just trying to cover up right now and wind up at least on a stool at the end of the fight rather than on his back. Zouski does look tired and looks a little bit rubbery right at this juncture. Zouski against the ropes. Frazier scores with a left, another left, and a right uppercut to the chin, and another left to the side of the head, and a right to the side of the head. Frazier scoring at will now against Zouski as he backs him into the ropes above us. 2 lefts and a right hand, all by Marvis Frazier, all score, and the referee steps in and says, that's all. With just about 45 seconds remaining in the round, crowd doesn't like it one bit. And neither does Zouski, and I'm not too sure, but he doesn't have an arguable point here. He had 45 seconds to finish the fight.
Well, there wasn't too much serious damage being done. I think with the time that was left in the last round, the fight should have continued.
Zouski doesn't like it at all. The crowd here at the Garden is not too happy with it either. And Marvis Frazier will be a TKO winner. It will not be a popular verdict with the Garden crowd. Zouski walks dejectedly away. He had really hoped to win it. So Marvis Frazier, or at least wind up losing a decision rather than being knocked out as he was, at least a technical knockout, a figurative knockout, if you will, as the referee stops the fight with just about 45 seconds remaining.